Thank you very much, Presiding Officer, and may I thank Christine Graham for the opportunity to discuss one of my favourite topics, which is railway. I, of course, was a former Transport Minister. I'm President of the Scottish Association for Public Transport, an organisation founded because of the closure of the Borders Rail, and I'm Honorary Vice President of Rail Future UK. The only thing I lack in my railway credentials is any railway in my constituency, but I do note that my ScotRail Saltire card, which I have here, does not expire until 2031, so there is still time to remedy that, if I may gently nudge the Minister in the matter of railways into my constituency at some future date, in the currency of my card, if I may. I, like others, join in congratulating the many volunteers and to ScotRail for opening their stations to such a programme. Their efforts jointly in the Adopt a Station programme enhance our railways, cheer up the travellers and create a talking point as we stand on platforms. Now, the Borders Railway I travelled on in the first Sunday after it opened, I think, all the way down to Tweed Bank, and I had a delightful lunch there and came back. I haven't yet got off at any of the other stations, and I'm sure, as Christine has told us, that the stations are improving and being enhanced. It's a spectacular railway line, the longest new piece of railway line in over a century. The usage levels, as is almost invariably the case with any new openings, are substantially ahead of what the model said. So when the model says that taking a line from Dyce up to Ellen might not be that great, I think we should remember the model has been lying to us pretty regularly on a whole series of things. We've now had 1 million people in the Borders. We could do something similar in the North East. And of course, the economic benefits are very substantial. And interestingly, the end-to-end journeys appear to be a much bigger proportion of what is being used for than was anticipated. It's interesting to hear Christine talk about the need to get a plaque in every station. Become Transport Minister and it becomes easy. I've got plaques on the west platform at Queen Street. I'm going to check after the recent refurbishment, it's still there. Lawrencekirk, Elgin, Markinch, Alloa, and I think, but I can't quite be certain, at Bathgate. But stations are a place of happy memories for me. The porter at Cooper Railway Station, where I lived, was Stanislaw Skrodzki, who'd been a captain in the Polish cavalry and stayed after the war in Cooper. His great skill was he had a welding kit, and given the rather imperfect old cars that I and my friends had, we used to rely on him, and we went to the station to get that done. My earliest railway journey, I remember, was from Benderloch to Oban, when I was taken to hospital because I'd got sunstroke. 1956 was a very warm year, and railways were very important in my life. But also very important in the matter of climate change. In 2015, 72% of our transport emissions were from road transport, while 1.3% of transport emissions were from rail. Now, rural communities in particular, such as are supported by the Borders Rail opening, have a particular value that they get from railways because they're further away from places they wish to travel to, and the railways dramatically opens up their areas. So I'm sure there's much more potential yet to be opened up from the Borders Railway. Let me just conclude by saying there are not just libraries, and there are other libraries. One or two of the stops on the line down to Caerlaugh, many of the stops are request stops, have little libraries, and one of them actually has a games room. Where in the period between trains, there are not a lot of them. If you miss one, you're going to be there for several hours. You can play dice, you can play poker, you can do many different things in the games room of some of the little stations. Stations are loved throughout Scotland. I love the Borders Rail, but I'll love a railway line back into Buchan even more.